Okay, I'm live. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat. Tuesday night edition. We get together and we talk about all things homesteading, small farms, and just plain living. Just plain living. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful day. The title of this tonight is Why We Exist. And usually, I don't know, I just come up with something to talk about on Tuesday night because of something that happened or something that I'm thinking about. And this morning, I've been given kind of an ongoing story about this calf that was born, or this one cow that we have. Her name is Face, and I've talked about her before. That's nice. A nice thing about having a 10 cow dairy is you know them all by name, and they all have a personality, and there's a story that goes with them. But she had a calf last Wednesday, and it was last Wednesday. It was just before I went on to the mentoring call, and we've been kind of worried about her because she was about 8 days over. I wouldn't say worried. We were just kind of concerned, like what's happening here. So I went out right before the call and I just did a look around riding my motorcycle, and I saw the rest of them and she wasn't there. So I knew that she was someplace else off having a calf. And I went down to the back of our farm, and I'm looking, and then I see this face looking out of the bushes at me. She's got a big wide head, and she's got a big white stripe across her face with a little black patch up here. So she's a unique looking cow. And she's been around here a long time. There's a lot of drama with old Face. And anyway, she calved. We went over there. We saw the calf. It was a boy calf, and it was completely wet. She had just had it, and she was licking it off and stuff. And so we were happy that Face had her calf. And then the next day, I went down. The next day, we wanted to milk her first thing in the morning. So I walked down there, and I had no, I rode my motorcycle down there, and I got off and I went in and found her, and I just walked behind her. And as I was walking behind her, I made a video of her and her calf walking up, and we milked her. We run her in to get milked, and then we take the calf is what we did. And so the calf we put in a calf hutch, and the calf laid down right away in the sun and was just happy to be there. And she came in, she was milked. We milked her last because her milk, we don't want to mix in with the other milk. So you don't even want it contacting the other milk because they have a lot of colostrum when they first give birth. And we saved that. And then all that day, I tried to give the calf a bottle, wouldn't take it. Just wouldn't take it. Just turned his nose up at it. The next day, all the cows came up except Face again. So I rode out there again, got myself shocked on the electric fence. Thank you. It was one of those things. I'm sitting on my motorcycle, and I pulled up to the fence. I was going to pull the post, and my motorcycle touched the fence, and my feet were on the ground, and I got belted good. So then I rode out there, and then the thing that you never want to see is a cow over on its side with the hoofs pointing out like this. And so from 50, 60, 70 yards away, she looked dead. And I thought, oh no, terrible. And I pulled up alongside of her, and she was still breathing. And she was obviously in distress. She was bloated, and her hoofs were out straight. And so I went and got Jill, and she came out and she said, "Did you guys give her calcium?" And I said, "No, I didn't." So now we're in trouble And now I have to dial the vet. So I call the vet right there. I mean, vet calls are expensive, and you really got to pull some strings sometimes to get the vet to come. But I really like this cow, and she's been very productive for us. So he couldn't come. My vet couldn't come. He was at a conference out of town till the next day. So there's no way he could come. And his office referred me to another veterinarian, Northern Bovine, it's called. And I called them, and the lady at the desk, the receptionist, said, "Oh, there's no way. He's booked solid today. There's no way he can come." And I said, "It's an emergency." And she said, "Well, I will check with him, but you probably should look for someone else." So I said, "Okay." She called me right back. And she said, "You know what? He knows you. You guys sold him a puppy. And years ago, we sold him a puppy. His name is Egan, Tim Egan. And I didn't know him, sold it to his wife. So he said he'll be there in 10 minutes. He was in the neighborhood. He'd stop in. So he stopped in. He had to give her an intravenous calcium bottle, and then he put some under her hide, to distribute it out. And she immediately started to look better. And we got her rocked up onto her haunches, so she was at least sitting up. She wasn't over. And then she started to belch. And so we kind of knew that we were out of the woods, kind of felt like, hey, we're out of the woods here, because this has happened before. And he had to go. So he says, "Hey, if for any reason she's not up by 4 o'clock, call me back, and we'll give her another dose." He says, "But I don't want to overdo it now, because I think I gave her enough, but I don't want to overdo it because it can cause them heart problems, because that calcium goes going right into the bloodstream, right into her heart." And I'm not sure why this all happens, but it kind of paralyzes them. And so anyway, I had to call him back, and he came out and gave her another um, intravenous treatment, and then stood there for a minute, and she kind of struggled, and he grabbed her tail and just wrenched her up, and she wobbled off. And in about 10 minutes, she had her head down eating grass, and she was really in good shape. So it was dramatic, and I spent all day Friday out there with her, or coming to the house, or run into town to get some more of that calcium stuff. So it was a action-packed day, but at the end of the day, I felt really good. Really good. When you almost lose a very valuable animal to your farm, very valuable for a lot of reasons, not just because she gives us 5 gallons of milk a day. That's part of it. But she's got a history with my children, and Covey, my old intern that was here, she booted him. Well, he had a twisted ankle, and she booted him, and it actually knocked his ankle back into joint, I guess. The way the story goes, I don't know, but he was limping around pretty good. And then after she kicked him, he was fine. So she's a healing cow, healing. So anyway, I made another video showing that she was up, and I was kidding around about being a content maker. This is my job. I'm a YouTube guy, because I'm really not. I just am playing show and tell, because I think it's fun, and I like show and tell. I've always liked show and tell. If I'm doing something and I'm into it, I like to show. And so anyway, I wanted to show the calf this morning, and this morning was going to be the first time that the calf would probably take the bottle without me having to hold him. You actually got to restrain him to stick the bottle in his mouth. And sure, so I wanted to make a video, and I said, I titled the video, "Why We Exist." Why we exist. And it's just something I pulled out of my back pocket. It wasn't any great thought pattern. It's just why we exist, because all that calf cares about, that calf doesn't care about my bank account. That doesn't care about what TV shows I like, or, if I love my wife or any of the other things, if I'm healthy, strong. He doesn't care about that. All he cares about is I'm bringing him a bottle. So in his mind, the only reason I exist is to bring him a bottle. So I did. And I made a video of it. And when I make videos, there's a little box there. It says title. And I always come up with a title and I put it in, but it makes a separate post. And that post, I don't know why it does this, goes over to my personal Facebook account. And it just says the title, but it doesn't have the video, right? That moves over later. It takes time for it to move over. I don't know why. I really don't know why. And I'm not that concerned about it, honestly. But anyway, the title showed up over there. And there was 10 or so people that wrote in why we exist. And I read them all. Jill said, hey, you should read this. This is pretty interesting. And I read them all. And it's been kind of on my mind today, so I thought I'd talk about it a little bit tonight. Yeah. So let's see if I can find that thread of what people said. I think I can. Ooh. Well, I thought I could.
Hey everyone, welcome back.
Nope. Nope. I'm not really too great about this. I'm not finding it. Okay, well, anyway, the majority of the responses were to glorify God. I would say that was the major thing. And, I have been a Christian for a long, long time. And I heard that when I first became a Christian 30 years ago, that's our job, to glorify God. But I didn't really know what that meant. And I've just never really said, tell me what this means. Somebody tell me what this means. I've never really known what that meant. I just, okay, well, that's what you're supposed to do as a Christian, is glorify God. But I didn't really know what that meant. But also something that happened today was I came out and it was nice out. Everything was calm. All the animals were supposed to be. I can see tails going back and forth. Everybody's happy. Beautiful day, clear sky, fairly warm. It's cool in the morning, which is great, and just beautiful. And you really get a good feeling. You get a good feeling. And I, for a long time, have known that I didn't create this. I know that. I'm just kind of like the steward here. I'm the guy that takes care of stuff. I mow the lawn. I think of things and I build things, and, but I didn't, that's the small stuff. That really is the small stuff. It does show effort, right? It shows effort. And when I've told you before, sometimes when I build something, I step back from it and I get a really good feeling out of that. A really good feeling. I mean, you do something nice, you mow a lawn, it looks good, Brian. You know what I'm talking about. You get back and you feel good about it. It's like, this is why I exist, right? You see a calf born. Although I've seen it 100 times, it's still a buzz. It's still a really good feeling, and you feel like you're part of it. And the cow trusts you, and the calf trusts you, and beautiful thing. Oh, by the way, it's going to grow up and be a heifer calf, which will probably give you 5 gallons of milk a day. That's a good thing. You see fruit come out on a tree that you planted. There's another thing. I just get a real charge out of that. You see the grass growing in an area where you spread compost. I get a real charge out of that. So there's all these things that are in the course of my day. And when I think about not doing this, like let's say I get called back in the military. Ooh, after what I heard Pete Hegseth say today, I know that's not going to be me, because I couldn't do my PT like I used to. But let's say something like that happened and I was missing everything that happens here. My wife, my children, when I was working in town, I didn't even see my wife in the morning. I was up and gone before she even got up. I didn't see my kids until I got home. I didn't know what they did all day. I missed all that. But now I get to spend time with them. This morning, the three of us stood down there by the milk house and just talked for a little bit about, yeah, this is really nice. It's really cool. Just think, we don't have to drive in traffic. It's just us here today. This is all we have to do, and we can work on this. We can work on this. Oh, we had chicken butchering today. So that was the main thrust of today, and milking. And I thought, this is really why living here, this is why I exist, to go out into it and get that feeling. And I wonder if that is glorifying God. When you say, thank you for this, I'll do the best I can today. I wonder if that's it. Because if I knew what it was, I sure do it. Because I'm given a gift every single day of being able to do this. And it all, like I've said, it started with just a little tiny idea. Hey, maybe we ought to do that. Well, you can get a lot more money, if you go to work for a defense contractor. There's a couple good wars going on right now. They need somebody like you. Yeah, but I never got that feeling that I get here, being a part of life. I did listen to the Secretary of the War Department today. I listened to his speech to all those generals. They had to give us something, They had to give us something. And I must admit, it was a grand slam, grand slam. As somebody that's been there and been out for 20 and I saw the onset of where the military is right now. And it answered a lot of questions for me by listening to him. It's like he was nailing it time after time after time. And it's like, oh, I'm not the only one that felt that way. We're here to do this, not this, and all the other fluff that has crept into the world, really. Just crazy, crazy stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't want to go back to that life. No way. No way. I mean, I got it done. It's behind me, and I'm glad I did it. But This is better. And I had another thought. Think about this. As I was sitting out in the field with Face, because I sat there with her, whenever I would leave, she would get scared because she was alone, but not scared enough to jump up and go and be with her girlfriends. So I stayed with her, and I thought the medication was going to take effect any time, and she'd jump up, and then I could go on with what I was supposed to be doing. So I was there for a while with her, just sitting and thinking, talking to her a little bit, praying a little bit. If it's your will, please heal this cow. It would mean a lot to me, I said. He did. But as I was doing that, I was thinking, does this cow have a consciousness of her creator? And I kept asking that question, and I looked at her, and knowing how animals are, there's a lot of consistencies amongst all animals. And I look for consistencies. I look for common denominators in situations and in things, patterns, pattern recognition. And there's a lot of things about all the animals that are here that are quite similar. And my feeling is that they do not have a consciousness of God. That's my feeling. I can't know that. But then I thought, so what is my role in this? Because even if you're somebody that doesn't believe in God, you still have a consciousness of God, because you're saying, well, I don't believe in it. But if you never had a consciousness of God, then you would say, well, I don't believe in it. So we do have a consciousness that there's something bigger than us. I think we all have that. I could be wrong. Maybe it was programmed into me as a little kid. Maybe if I came up in a household full of, non-believers, non-God people, then it would be a different story. Maybe. I don't know. Can't know that. But I thought, if she does not have a consciousness of God, then what is my role in this? What am I expected to do? So I think a lot of people who believe in God and his son, Jesus Christ, are working towards the well done, my good and faithful servant. So I started to believe at the moment that my job is to be sort of like an interface between this being, this cow that has no God consciousness, and the God of the universe. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, they're my responsibility. Every one of these cows that's on my place is my responsibility. Because things have changed recently. There was a time when, if I had a cow that just wasn't getting pregnant again, well, burger. And it was sort of heartless, sort of heartless. And I didn't like that. But I believe that I was emulating others that are in the farming business that have that edge of, well, they're just animals. They don't know any different. Like they can't experience fear. They can't experience kindness. They can't experience love. And I'm here to tell you, they can. They respond very well. If you take a stick to them, or if you even pick up a stick and they think you're going to spank them, they respond. If you praise them and you stroke their ears, they like it. They like it. Face, for instance, when she first got here, she she didn't like anybody. She didn't want to be near anybody. She didn't like anybody. She just wanted the hay pile and a drink of water, and that's it. If you moved towards her, she moved away. Now she's not like that. So she has gotten used to us and responded to our kindness and love. Like, we love that cow. I love that cow. So I started thinking of my role as sort of like the story of Adam and Eve. It's a very interesting story. I don't really want to debate if it's true or not. It doesn't matter because it's a good story. And Adam and Eve were the caretakers of the garden. And, that story could be way off. Who knows? I don't think it is, because it fits in so well with my existence here, right? I am the overseer of these animals. If they don't have water, they can't get it. That's my responsibility. If they don't have food, they can't get it, although they'll do something. If they go long enough without it, they'll do something. And then we have a mess. We can't have them all together. They have to be separated. That's my responsibility. So could it be that you can get an immediate response on these things from the creator of the universe? I come out and I get a kick. Like, it's not a kick. It's not a buzz like drinking 4 beers buzz. It's not like that. It's more whole. It's more whole than that. It's more. It's not a cheap buzz by any means, and it lasts, and you can look back on it and you still get a warm feeling about it. So it's not a cheap buzz. And I wonder if the "well done, my good and faithful servant" comes on a regular basis. I wonder if that's what that is. I wonder. Because if you knew that's what it was, then I think and I know me, I would conduct myself a lot better. I would never yell at anybody, my cows. I would never call them bad names when they don't do what they're supposed to. I would never take a stick to them. Never. And I never really do, not like you think. If we tap them on the rear end with the white stick, they know, we're not hurting them. We're just getting their attention. Yeah, so I think that is a good way to conduct yourself, and that's how I'm going to conduct myself with this operation. Along the lines of the the callous nature of, you have a cow that has a problem, she's out of here, get a new one in. I've told you the story of Cece. She is a cow that was rescued as a calf. I don't remember how old she was, but I think we still bottled her. But she came from a farm that Jill was working part-time at. And she was born, she heifer calf, but she had a hoof that was knuckled under. And so the man who owns the place said, I'm just going to knock her in the head and throw her in the manure pit. And we were like, how could you? She's just, look at the color of her and her eyelashes, and look at her beautiful eyes. And how can you can't do that? Well, take her then if you want her. And so I did. Jill said, yeah, we'll take her. And so we brought her home. We weren't thinking of her as a milk cow at the time. We were thinking, well, we'll just, raise her up till she's pretty big, and then we'll make beef out of her. But as time went by, we straightened her hoof, by the way. We put a splint on it. And, I think she's about 7 years old. I've been meaning to check. But she does fairly well on that hoof. Fairly well. Right now she's doing very well. But last winter, she was doing really poorly on it, and it was swollen up. It was red. She could hardly put weight on it, so she was limping around. It was really looked bad. I moved the hay feeder close so she didn't have to walk far for it. I mean, she was laying down and she was in so much pain that she was manuring laying down. So I kept hoping for the best. And I finally, at the prodding of my wife and children, said, okay. And we were going to put her down. And I thought, wait a minute. Before I do that, let me call the vet, because maybe he's got a miracle cure. He's seen this before and he can fix it, And he's a friend of mine, real good guy. He came out and I'll never forget it. He had all his tools and stuff, and we walked out and he looked at it and he just went like that. And he says, oh, she's in a lot of pain. She's got arthritis, and I don't think there's anything I can do. He said, I could give her a shot of pain med, but what's that going to do? And then you can't use her milk, and she's in a lot of pain. And he says, if you're not able to do it, I'll do it. And I said, no, because I'm thinking, well, at least we would honor her by eating her, But I couldn't do it that day, and I couldn't do it the next day because we had a beef hanging at the time. And so I thought, well, okay, but I'm going to do it. And I start running through my mind that process of getting a rifle and, pushing her in through the milk parlor out into the killing area, and just the fear that she would be demonstrating. And she relies on me. She trusts me. And then I was going to shoot her. And I don't like to expose myself to that type of thing. I used to be kind of hardcore about it, but I want to avoid that if I can. And because I'm human, it has an effect on me. And, we've had that cow here for a long time. My kids their bodies are built off of her milk, so it was not going to be an easy thing to do. And I'm not squeamish or anything like that. It's just, she wouldn't be here and I would miss her. And so I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to do it. I'm the one that's got to do it. I couldn't have my kids do that. Jill doesn't do that type thing. And so I mentioned it on the mentoring call. And one of the mentees, a lot of you guys know her, Ann Putnam. I rely on her for a lot of information. She knows a lot. She's got that engineer brain, and she's farming full time now, but she is a good researcher and she finds out some pretty cool stuff. And she said, you probably want to try DMSO on her. And I was like, tell me more. So she told me, she said, you want turmeric and DMSO. And so I'm like, okay, that bought me a little time, because then I can say, hey, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. I know she's in pain, but I'm going to try this, because if it's a possibility, I want to do it. And in a couple of days, we could see a change. And so I knew I was onto something. And in about a month, her foot, we washed it down every day with warm water, got all the manure and stuff off. This is in the wintertime. And then we would put on the turmeric and honey. And then we would put the DMSO over that, and that DMSO would pull the turmeric into her. I think it was turmeric. Anyway, it would pull it into her hoof, and it would bring the swelling down. And one day when we were cleaning her off, there seemed to be like a scab on two places about the size of a prune. And as we were brushing it, the scab broke off, and all this greenish white pus kind of came out like squishing a toothpaste tube. It didn't gush, but it was under pressure. It came out and plop, plop, plop. Oh, I would say there was a half a cup that came out of each wound, one a little more than the other. And we were kind of like, wow. And the next day, same thing. And we kept after it, keep that open so it can drain. And finally, there was new skin there. It was just really pink, new skin. The hair was off, and the swelling came down, and now she is gliding. She glides like just a regular 7-year-old cow as she's walking. It's still swollen. It's kind of red, but it's nothing like it was before. And she's not favoring it. And the hoof on one side, how they have a cloven hoof on one side, she walked on it oddly. And the hoof, instead of abrasing off, it grew and it curled up. And it was about this high. It was about that high, and it looked really bad. Some people told me you should clip it off. Some people said, no, just leave it. It'll fall off. I didn't really know what to do. I finally, when she was feeling better, I finally grabbed it and took a Sawzall and cut it in half. So I cut half of it off. I cut off a chunk about that big. And that since that, it's only last winter, you can start to see that side of her hoof is chamfering in towards the old hoof. And we're expecting any day for that old piece to just break off. And then we'll see the new hoof under it. So, since then, how many days has it been? How many months has it been? And she's given us, she just gave me a calf. Was that her? Yeah. Yeah, she gave us. No, wait a minute. No, she's pregnant now. Last calf she gave us, I can't remember right now. But anyway, she's given us several calves and how many gallons of milk. And all we give her is grass and hay and fresh water. And then ear scratches. That's all we give her. And she gives us all of this. And then you convert that milk to dollars. It's okay. Well, I could do a quick calculation on this. She gives me 3 gallons of milk a day, average. And it's been February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. All right. Well, there's a good 8 months times 30. I mean, this is just the dollars, but I do this all the time. So 8 times 30 days, average 240 days, times 3 gallons of milk. Now, when she starts off milking, she's given probably 6 or 7, but now she's at the end of her lactation, so it's less. 720 gallons of milk times, we get $10 for a gallon of milk. That's impressive. If I had knocked her off, we probably would have come close to about 4 in beef, 4,000. She's not a real She's kind of bony. So, I mean, that's just the money, but the psychological effect that has on me when I go in there, she's on the milking machine and she turns her head and looks at me and says, "You're going to give me something?" And I just grab her by the head, kiss her on the ears and stuff. And thinking how close I was to giving up on her, right? And the way she's created, I would be giving up on that plan, on that blueprint for her creation. Like, yeah, she had a birth defect. Can we get through this? Like, I happen to have a sore foot right now. I've had it for a couple months now. Really sore. Neuropathy, it probably is, or plantar fasciitis. I'm working on it, though. I got a plan. You're not going to just put me down because I got a sore foot. And it was kind of short-sighted thought process to think, well, her foot hurts, so we'll just kill her, make hamburger out of her, and get a new one. Nah, that takes something out of the operation. It takes something out of the magic of this whole thing. Conversely, you find a face over on her side and you're heartbroken, but then you look at a CC that I was this close to knocking down, and I would never get to see her again in my life. Where the way it is right now, she could be here for another 10 or 12 years, 14 years, she could be. I mean, they'll live a long time the way we take care of them. We milk them once a day and look after them, and they sleep in warm beds and have clean water and stuff. They can live a long time. So that's just food for thought. I didn't know the farm was going to turn out being this type of spiritual journey. I really didn't. But it really has. And it's almost more spiritual than dollars and cents, because, like, let's say I go to work for Halliburton after I get out of the service. Oh, the dollars and cents, they're real high. But the spirituality of it, the spiritual nature of it, it's all about killing. Like, how long can a guy do that, before you, even though if you're not the trigger puller, the machine is designed to kill, So anyway, the dichotomy that's going on right now, it's not like I fully understand it, but I am getting more understanding every day that I do this. The well done, my good and faithful servant. All I did was take care of these cows. That's what I wanted you to do. That's why you're there. Are you okay with that? I love you, so I put you in this position. And I know you're having the time of your life. I love you. How about that? Yeah. So then when you take on that thought process, it just makes a lot of this other decisions kind of easy, because you can wade through it. Oh, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I not do that? I had an interesting thing happen. I'll tell you about. My wife's going to be hearing about this for the first time. I just haven't told her yet. She doesn't like when I do that, but it's not like I was keeping it from her. I was just here and she was there and just didn't get to it. But this thing that happened Sunday in Southern Michigan, some guy, apparently he's a Marine Corps type guy, Iraq, veteran of Iraq. He drove a pickup through the foyer of a Mormon church and killed several people. He got out with a gun and started shooting, and it looks like he had some sort of incendiary, because the church caught fire in a big way. it wasn't like there was a small fire and they couldn't put it out. It looked like it was a good sized fire that they did try to put out, and it burnt the place to the ground. And that changed everything. That changed everything as soon as I saw that. And Jill and Frank go to a church up here. I don't go, and I have my reasons. And Jill plays the piano. And I told Jill when she got home, I said, hey, this happened just a little while ago. This is last Sunday. I said, this changes everything. And from my perspective, within the military community, we have this thing, it's called force protection. So we protect our own people. We're on a base, and it's pretty important to keep our assets safe and our people safe. And a lot of times the people that might want to do damage to our military members could be civilians. It's not necessarily in Iraq or Vietnam or any place like that where you have real life bad guys. Sometimes you just have wackos, and we have quite a few wackos. You see them more and more. I've seen some pretty odd cases in Cadillac that kind of give me a concern. I have a concern when I see these individuals wearing dresses, but they're men, and men are inherently dangerous. Real men are restrained, but those men evidently cannot restrain themselves. And someone told them, put a dress on, you'll be all right. So it doesn't show real good problem solving. Anyway, it wasn't one of them that did this. It was a Marine, but it changed everything because now it's out there that a vehicle can be used as a weapon. So in force protection within the military community, we know that a vehicle can be a deadly weapon, right? So approaching a military base, you always have to go through, different things that you can't get any real speed up and that they can stop you and do what they have to do. The security people can do what they need to do. Of course, on a military base, you have all these guys carrying automatic rifles, and a lot of times in different places, they actually set up a machine gun, and that will stop a vehicle. But now we have all these churches that are like just soft targets. They're totally soft targets. And since the first one got hit, now it's going to be like, oh, I didn't realize it could do that, because people just get ideas. And so I had no choice but to call the church today and say, this is Jill's husband, and I just need to know, are you going to do something? And if you are, do you need help hardening your facility from some sort of attack like that? And the guy I haven't met him yet. The guy was real. He's the pastor there. He's a new guy. He's 36 years old. And he's from Chicago. So he's not from around here. And I said, hey, man, we got a lot in common. You ain't from around here either. So anyway, we had a nice conversation about things, and he was very open to talking with me and wanted to know, do you really think that there's a threat? And I said, I do. And that's why I'm calling you. And, if you're not receptive to it, when you do come around, then I'll allow my family to go. But until that's looked at and a plan is put in place, then we're just not gonna, we'll stay home. I'll keep my wife and son home. And I wasn't giving him an ultimatum. I was just saying, this needs to get done. A lot of the people that are from around here that don't have maybe the point of view that I do of the evil that men are capable of. They think, oh, it'll never happen. A rural community like that'll never happen. But I can't take that chance. So anyway, we kind of hit it off, and he says, well, I'd like to meet you. And I said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? He says, well, I got something and I could swing by. So cool. I'm going to sit down with him. And all I have to do really is do some drawing on a piece of paper and show him this is how we do it. And it's not going to require a lot of heroics in any way. And I don't think you want to put in permanent, things out there, because in my opinion, the craziness that's going on in our country right now, it came on fast and it's not going to be here forever. It's not. I'm very optimistic, and I've told you that I'm optimistic, and I can't always say why. I have a couple people that I know that are hardcore, hate everything that is conservative or Christian or Trump or military or Hegseth, and they are coming unglued about the speech that Hegseth gave today, and even accusing him of wasting money because he summoned all these generals to Quantico to sit them down. And he gave a public speech, but then the cameras were out and it was just him and them. He outranks every single one of them. He has the ability to say, this is what we're doing. If you don't want to, and you want to talk to me about it, that's fine. We can have a conversation. But at the end of the day, you are going to do what I want you to do, or I will replace you with somebody who will do. And he went into a lot of things that have really bothered me since I came out of the military, and even some things that were bothering me before I got out. He addressed things like fairness, amongst the troops. That's not why we're there. We're not there to be fair to each other. We're there to do a job, and letting people in who can't meet the physical or the psychological requirements is a bad deal. But if we let them in because they're a member of a minority group or they're female or whatever, I'm just saying that's what it is. And we let them into career fields that really require men to do. It's counterproductive, and it weakens us all, and it makes it harder for us to do our job. We're less mission effective, Everybody knew it, but I've told you guys this one time. I had a full colonel say to me, you're going to have to play the game a little bit. And I said, I just don't get it, sir. I just never saw this as a game. I just never saw it as a game. It never occurred to me that this was a game. And he kind of paused him a little bit. And he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to retire. I thought about hanging around for a while because, you need everybody, but I'm going to retire because I don't see this as a game, and I will never see it as a game. And I'm going to speak the truth, not a truth that doesn't hurt somebody's feelings who shouldn't be here in the first place, because we don't bring in people who can't make the physical and mental requirements. Why is that individual here? And it's a long story, and I won't go into it, but that was where I said, this is not for me. I need to be in something that's real, that's absolutely real. And it's a dichotomy in itself, because you're dealing with very lethal equipment, very lethal people, like a lot of them, very lethal, effective people. But then we have all these little munchkins running around that are there because you had to hire me because I'm, whatever. I'm gay, so you got to have this many. I don't know. You don't like to. I don't even like to say the things because there were people from some of those groups that were actually very effective and actually very lethal. And I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but a lot of them should not have been there. They should not have been there. And because we're returning now, per Secretary Hegsteth, we're returning to the standard. Because we're returning to that, a lot of them will go away because they will not be able to make the standard, and they'll probably just deny them reenlistment or whatever. So I know of a lot of, well, I don't know them personally, but I've heard stories, and many of them, and I have no reason to believe that they're not accurate, because who would ever say something like this? But young men that say, I've had enough of this politically correct BS. I do not want to go into the military where they're enforcing political correctness with an iron fist. I do not want anything to do with that. And as somebody that was there when that started, there was always like this, oh, yeah, sure. But behind the scenes, when it was just us men, it was like, this is ridiculous. This is going to end, right? This is going to go away someday, right? But they doubled down. I mean, at first it was, oof, yeah. I'm not going to say anymore. I don't want to hurt any feelings. Don't get me wrong. I love women. I surely do. I love the women. I surely does. But it just does not look right to me. And I can never wrap my head around. And I know there's a lot of it going on now, and I'm out 20 years, but I can never wrap my head around seeing a little girl with pigtails sticking out of her helmet and a rifle and combat fatigues. It's just like, what are we doing here? Like, you can't come. Why are you dressing up like you're coming? You're not coming. But that's what we've done. And they even, it just, there was a common thread to then to what I see now. You know, as absurd, and I'll give you an example here. Like when we come to work in the morning in the military, we have to come through the gate. And there is a person at the gate, and that person may be very low ranking, an E1 or an E2, but they control that gate. And they've either got a sidearm on or they're carrying a rifle. And they are at that gate and they wave you through depending on everything about you has to line up. Like if you have a military uniform on, U.S. Air Force, but then you're wearing a baseball hat, you're getting stopped. There's an inconsistency here. Something's not right. You know, you got a turban on. Whoa, that ain't right. So everything has to be right in that young man or woman's mind, or they stop and they're going to say, something's not right here. So when you're approaching the gate, there's a moment of butt puckering, you know, because you're thinking, oh, you know, I don't know. Is something out of place? Is my sticker current? You know, is my registration current on the front of the, you know, is my uniform on correctly? Something like that. But there's a moment because that young guy can stop that line right there and is absolutely authorized to get you out of that car. And if he wants to, your nose will be in a puddle on the ground if you give him any lip, and you will not give him any lip because he's got live rounds in his gun, and he is authorized to use that deadly weapon on, you know, if the need came. So I was going through and usually they are sharp, you know, their uniform is perfect. Their hand movements are 100% the same every time. Sharp comes up, just really, really, you feel proud of that young guy. You know, like, look at you, you're right on. I would always give him one of those. You know, look good, looking good, right on. Maybe a thumbs up. No, I probably wouldn't do a thumbs up. I would just give him a looking good. You didn't give him a hassle, that's for sure. So I'm coming through the gate one day. And what am I seeing? I'm 4 or 5 cars back, and what am I seeing? I'm seeing this, looks like about a 16-year-old girl. And I get closer, like, what the heck is she wearing? Camouflage. And then I get closer, and she's wearing pregnancy camis. What? With a little helmet on and her little pigtails coming out. And the load bearing equipment, or pistol belt, isn't clipped. That's not good. But she can't because she's pregnant. So a pregnant female on the gate, wearing combat fatigues, a helmet with pigtails, and I just didn't even know what to say. It's like you want to stop and say something, but it's obviously a very distressed situation. So I'm not going to talk to her. I'm going to talk to a friend of mine, a master sergeant friend of mine, who she works for. And I'm going to say to him, are you aware of what I just saw at the gate? And so I called him. I'll never forget that guy, Sergeant Carr. Called him and I said, I just saw something coming through the gate and I think you should know. And he said, I have gotten 5 phone calls like that or 10 phone calls like that this morning. We're well aware of it. I said, okay, what's going on? And he says, we're short of people. I said, man, you can't be that short of people. You should be out there because everybody saw that coming through the gate. I mean, she met probably a very nice girl, probably very nice, but it's another dichotomy. It's like jumbo shrimp, you know? And that was really problematic. A lot of us had a really hard time with that type of thing going on in the military. And then the last time I was on a base, which was about 4 years ago, it was way, way worse. Today, Secretary Higgs has said, if you want to wear a beard, then you find another line of work. Because forever, you couldn't have a beard in the military. You couldn't do that. And all of a sudden now, it's like everybody has a shaving waiver. My son has a shaving waiver. I thought about texting him today saying, hey man, don't cut yourself when you're shaving because he will be shaving. But the standards have just gone down. I mean, so far down that I don't even know. It doesn't even look like the same place anymore. Doesn't even look like the same place. And I can go on, but yeah, that was a real kick. And that was 20 years ago and caused a lot of problems. Yeah. So hopefully we get back, because if we can't do the little things, then we can't do the big things. And I know the big things. So maybe we have to back up and start doing the little things over again. Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know if that was a little off topic, but what do we got here? All right. Jill's here. I love it when my food has a good story. McKenna and Andrew Fox, thanks for existing. See, not many people chimed in. Everyone heard Sek Hetsa say the same thing at the same time. No chance for a mincing of words and changing the story. Oh, he had more to say to him, Brian. He had way more to say. There's something up. There is something up. First of all, we've changed from the Secretary of We've changed from the Department of Defense to the Department of War. That's where we were in 1947 is when they changed it. So the Department of War and the Department of Defense is two different things. And playing a defensive game never works. You always have to be on offense and take the shot. And for too long, we're not taking the shot. So it's got to change. It has to change. We cannot continue to play these foolish games that we've been playing with the military. So, yeah, a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things. That church hits close to home. Sil is doing the burial. Sil? Brian, who's Sil? S-I-L. Doing the burial. Sil? I don't know who it is. Yeah, that's not good. Sister in Ale. Sister in Ale? Is she the one with the little the drinking problem? Sister in Ale. Sister-in-law? Okay. If any of you out there need my assistance on that, force protection is something that I'm pretty good at, actually, and it's not that hard to figure out, and it can easily be done, in time for Sunday services. You don't have to move a bunch of stuff in or anything like that. There's just a way to flow traffic that, and then a couple of other little things that need to be in place. So if anybody needs any help with that, I will certainly sit down on the phone with you and talk you through it. It's not all that difficult to do, but it must be done until this blows over. And I'm quite sure that it will. When you have the majority of the public that is sane, we don't have to think about these things. But when we start getting a little lopsided and people who were sane seem to be going insane at this point, then it's a time to kind of harden things up, keep your head on the swivel, and be prepared. Don't get caught flat-footed. Who'd have thought something like that would have happened? But it did. And you can't think one guy that's sitting in a pew that's got a Glock tucked down his belt that's going to do it. That will not do it. That's just a farce, actually. That's for use once someone is already in. But if someone's going to pick a building and make a target out of it, chances are it's framed with 2x6s, and a 3/4-ton pickup doing 30 miles an hour is going to make sticks out of it, especially if you had an incendiary on the front. Incendiary. If you don't know what an incendiary is, it's a device that's sole purpose is to catch things on fire. Yeah, not good. All right. If there are no questions, we don't have a whole bunch of people in the audience tonight. Must be something going on. Everybody's online fighting about what Pika Higgs has said. If there's nothing else, I'm going to cut out of here. We've been on for an hour. There is no consulting call tomorrow night or mentoring call. Let's see. I'd say it's a good time. I mean, it's always a good time to be prepared, but it wouldn't be a bad time right now. It seems like there's a lot of turbulence on many different levels, and who knows? It'd be a good time to have your supplies laid in. Make sure you get some extra fuel. Means getting good, clean water for should be a month. You should be able to do it. Have a month's worth of water, month's worth of fuel, and a means to protect your family. That's not that hard to do. You know, you can do that. Okay, I'm going to get going. Thanks everybody for coming. Remember, anyone can farm. Enjoy it. Night.